Hi again, everyone. I have a message here from Michael, and here's his story. Hey, Ollie Matthews. Recently, with the things I have been going through at 20 years old now and married, I thought I'd share my story because I was always confused whether I was crazy or this was really happening. First, let's start with my father's story. He was abused when he was younger and had a bad father. Now, after working all his life, doing backbreaking work. He's on Social Security because he claims that his PTSD from his abuse makes it to where he can't tolerate people at work, and that he has horrible back pain as well, which I can vouch. I'm sure he does, but he's become a liar. He's because of all of this and doesn't work. But my stepmother does work almost every day, and she does the dishes most of the time and the laundry. He usually is there to do hands-on stuff that she can't do. But anyway, he has told friends that don't know him that it's because he was a private contractor, mercenary work, and that's why he has PTSD. And he has a fake picture of a guy with his eyes blacked out, all geared up, that he found on the internet, and says that it's him to all of his and my stepmother's friends, which has eaten away at me for years. Yeah, it's that stolen valor shit. So throughout my teenage years, I started to learn things on my own, of course. My father had taught me hands on that I never knew, but I started to think for myself and not need him for everything. As this began, he started to do as he always does, taking credit for things I told him, such as information. We would get on long spills of topics such as religion, philosophy, and everyday life skills. After informing him and teaching him a few things, I would notice whenever family or friends were over at the house, he would take credit for those things I taught or told him and say things like, here's an interesting topic that I told Michael once. And he would go on and on about how he was telling me things about those topics. So he was literally taking credit for information I brought up to him. But that's not even the worst. Slowly, as we would get in arguments because I would bring this up to him, he would get furious, like I was telling him to change his life, and sometimes even violent, telling me that I was a smartass and I must hate him, or how if it wasn't for him, I'd be nothing and I would know nothing without him. I would, I like I owe him my life or something. I learned really not, I learned really quick not to be friends or even talk about stuff anymore. But one day I asked him for a favor in which I paid him back. But till this day, he holds it over my head. Same thing when I went to college. I needed a new car because my old one was trash. So we went out with $2,000 in school refund money and bought a car, and they helped me out because it was $3,000 and they got $1,000 loan. So I knew instantly I shouldn't take it, and it was a bad idea because I knew I would feel that guilt and how I'd hear them hold it over my head forever, and they do to this day. It, in which this is where my story gets good. So I was 19 when the girl I've been talking to and dating for years married me. She was everything I ever needed, and my dad recognized that, but I felt like it was a threat to him because he would always find flaws, like why I wasn't coming home early enough, or staying out late, or acting like I was doing drugs and accusing me of stuff I was never doing. Me and her were noticing this more and more, but she liked my dad in the beginning until she started to notice he has NPD, and that is what I needed all along. Someone on the outside to notice it too, so I, to notice it too, so I didn't feel crazy. So after a bunch of moving out and living in an apartment for a whole year, in which after 2 months in that apartment, we visited them a good amount. And one day they told us how to live our lives and how we were doing it all wrong and we were immature and we had our heads in the clouds. And we stood up for ourselves and said, we don't have our heads in the clouds. Then he got violent and said, smartass, you want to take this outside? Just like he would say in my teen years. And my wife stood up and said, let's just calm down. Michael obviously feels like you are questioning our matureness, all while becoming an EMT and going to classes 3 times a week and working. Then he went off on her and said she was a spoiled brat and she didn't work and she was nothing at all. She ran out crying and he literally chased us out and said, "Get out of my house, you fucks." So 6 months into our apartment, and my stepmother, NPD enabler, said it would be okay and a cool idea to move into the guest house and it would be fine as long as we set it up with a kitchen and bathroom eventually and did our dishes, in which we did more than ours. We did theirs too, and the laundry. So after a year, we left our apartment to go there. So after being there for a month, which I never wanted to go back, my wife was giving them the benefit of the doubt. They start to find things about my wife that she didn't do, like she did all the laundry and dishes and cleaned up after herself. But there would be 1 or 2 days where she forgot to wipe off the cutting board, or he would get her talking to him about topics that were really controversial, and he would trap her into giving a smart remark because he was pretty much a dick, treats women like tools, and refers to them as bitches half the time anyway. One day he calls me into the kitchen with the enabler stepmother present to help filter his rage and childlike behavior, which I handled well and have a recording. So anyway, they brought up how they have done so much for me and I have no ground to stand on to come into their lives and not clean up after ourselves, in which this is all over my wife forgetting to clean a cutting board once in a blue moon, which we are vegan, so it's not like we leave meat juice all over it, and that him and her are not clicking, and he feels like she has something going on that I don't even know about, trying to get me to divorce her pretty much because I am trying to escape his hold. He even said she has some sort of motive and is trying to make him furious over this. So after a bunch of blabbing about how I owe him everything, even though they had the ideas in the first place, he brings up this better change or I'm disowning you as a son. Those words could have never been better. Trust me. I've always wanted to say, go ahead, but he would be triggered easily. And this is all over my wife. So we're looking for a new place and I am doing the right thing and doing no contact with them. I kept it short and sweet because I know this is a long email and a lot to cover. I would even like to do Skype about this with someone. I plan on posting my story on YouTube soon enough, and I'll make sure to cover every detail because for the longest time I didn't know what was going on. I called it jealousy because my wife came into my life and was helping me get away and reacted badly to that like a loss of power over me until just a month ago. I found out the true classification for NPD, and he has all the signs and symptoms of it, and is even trying to push my wife away and manipulate me into thinking she's a bad person because of all this. Everyday narc for you. Thanks for letting me share my part of the story, Michael. Okay. Again, before you guys send me stories, please make sure the punctuation is in there because it makes it very difficult to read. Now, as far as your story goes, Michael, I mean, you're 20 years old and you are at a teetering point in your life. Okay? Now, you got married really, really young, and your parents and your father's going to use that to your advantage. The narcissist knows when you're at a breakaway point. And what they do is they try to sabotage your breakaway point so you never actually break away. It's them putting their hooks or their anchor into you so you can never get away. But you've realized that already. So you know what you have to do. You know this guy is dangerous. You know he's never going to stop. And you know you have to get away. He's going to keep coming at you harder and harder until you're able to fully break away. That's just what they do, because they realize you're at the breakaway point. And that's when the narcissist fights its hardest. That's when everything I've ever done for you, given for you, you owe me, comes out. And that's where the feeling, you have nothing to feel guilty of. Because all they're trying to do is sink an anchor into you and keep you from moving forward. So, thank you for your story. I hope that helps. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, or you'd like to set up a private Skype chat or a private video, you know, to do with the email and PayPal links in the description box. I'll have the video right back to you. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. See you all again soon.